Hi, my name is Remy Siu, and I am the creative director at Sunset Visitor Studios, and we are working on 1000xRESIST. Yeah, so before we started this studio, we were all working as artists, mostly in the performing arts here in Vancouver, and we would tour kind of around Canada and the US and internationally, various kinds of performance works that we would make. We specifically worked in interdisciplinary arts practice, so that involved having, a choreographer, a theater director, and performers, musicians, and other people, kind of all in the same room trying to put together a show in a way that's a little bit different than how you would imagine traditional theater to be put together. I think one of the things about our practice before this is that we always wanted everybody to bring as much of their own interests into the work as possible. And because we were all, gamer nerd millennials, we were super interested in games and game storytelling, and just in general how games worked and how we could apply that to performance. And so that greatly kind of influenced a lot of the ways that we would work and the kind of vocabulary that we would work with on stage. In the case of a specific work, it's 3 pianists of varying skills, or varying kind of level of skill. They're going to kill me when I say that. The idea is that we're tuning it very much for them. And the audience, when they come to see it, I suppose they're more kind of in a frame where, you would have somebody watch a Twitch stream. So when the pandemic happened in March 2020, everything was canceled, and everything in the live events, all of our plans kind of went out the window. So we did the thing, we stayed at home and we played Animal Crossing for like a month. But at the end of the month, I was getting kind of restless. So at the time, I was already working on a Unity project, just trying to learn Unity. And it was this capitalist realist adventure game. But in lockdown, it was really difficult to continue with that project because, it seemed like anything could happen, and things that they told us that were impossible were kind of happening every day. So that was when I decided to kind of switch onto what is now the 1000xRESIST prototype. The prototype involved somebody kind of visiting a past. And that past was very regular to us, but there was a general sense that the observer or the player character was alienated from that past. And I think part of that was the feeling at the time of being in lockdown and being shut down, and that there was some distance from what used to be regular for us and what may be regular for us in the future. But that's kind of where we started prototyping what currently is 1000xRESIST. This is not the capital realist game that I was making about fine details on retail flow or whatever. It's about something a little bit more fantastical, a little bit more detached from reality. I don't think we would be able to make this game 5 or 6 years ago. And part of that is the development of tools, democratization of tools that allows us to achieve a certain kind of scope with less people involved. So our kind of full-time team is 4 people, and we have 2 part-time and various other kind of people helping us. But it was good timing. It was kind of acknowledging that we have all the tools in front of us to try and translate our performance practice into games, and that it wouldn't be extremely, extremely laborious. Yeah, one of the hopes was to take our kind of devising theater process or devising performance process and port that over into making games. in a very, very naive way. We were going to do pretty much the same thing, but the output was going to be different. In a devised process room, the hierarchy is generally flat. So it usually involves a bunch of people bumping against each other, and then eventually that kind of collision does generate something. So it's not always the most smooth process or the most efficient process, but what you get is that you get something that you wouldn't get if those particular people were not in the room together. When we did try to bring over this devised process over into game development, one of the things that happened is we had a general sense of how the game story-wise began and ended, but anything kind of in between was something that we would explore together. And to a certain extent change on the fly. And we've done this a couple of times where in our exploration in the writer's room, something demanded that, the story demanded that something happen. And so we try to always listen to that and adjust development for that, which can be chaotic. And it's not maybe something I 100% recommend, but this is kind of the way that we know how to do it. So Fixer was a prime example of this. We had written a lot of scenes with Fixer in them. And then the moment we got the drawing back, she's so cool. She looks so different than what we thought. We should probably rewrite her and rethink the voice of her. And that became shaping Fixer's overall character. That's just an example of how we would get something from Kodai and be like, oh, maybe we should change our approach. And that's exciting because it does generate some new things. So something I love about old games is that they would try to tell these really emotional and dramatic and sweeping stories with a lot of technical restrictions. And what kind of emerged was this distance between what was being depicted on screen and what you imagined in your head and what you were feeling as the player. You would see very simple sprites move about, but you would still somehow be very, very affected by them, very involved in the drama. So even though it's 2023 and we may not have the same technical restrictions games of a different era had, we are a very small team, and it's very difficult for us to literally depict everything we want to do in the kind of ambitious story we want to tell. So that's when we lean on our performing arts experience and how that may help us abstract certain kinds of events for players that still retain the affect that we're looking for. The narrative game space is at a really exciting place where so many of us are trying to explore how to tell more ambitious stories, more involving and intimate stories in this medium. We're super excited to be a part of that and share what we think is a unique experience with the player. So I hope that when they do play the game, there'll be moments of surprise, moments of I can't believe they did that, and moments of real sadness and maybe some joy.